We start with Game 5. Celtics now favored by 8. And bad news for the Heat, Gabe Vincent's out after tweaking his ankle last game. Here's his numbers.
Who's going to guard Malcolm Brogdon?
He's second in minutes. He's third in points. And the Heat are 18-5 with him as a playoff starter. So, Nick, who you got?
Who I got?
Yeah, who do you have?
Well, I'm going to go with Miami because they're better, and they've been better, and they've been better this postseason, they've been better this series, and they've been better the last 2 years, and they've been better the last 4 years. And to find the window of time, it's a very weird thing people are doing to find a way to disrespect the Heat. Because if we look at the last, half decade in the East, they've been the best. If we look at the last 3 years, nobody's been better. If we look at the totality, they were the 1 seed last year.
Are you going back to LeBron and Wade and those guys?
No, since Jimmy Butler's been there. They've been in the finals. They've been the 1 seed. Mm-hmm. They're a game away from the finals again. If we just look at the entirety of this season, from the first game to right now, they're basically the second best team to Boston, who they've owned in this series. The only way to find the window of time where the Heat haven't been awesome, it's like, okay, we're going to count this regular season and this regular season only. And that's illogical to me. So, yeah, I like the Heat tonight, and Vegas's ongoing love affair with the Boston Celtics, who were 7.5-point favorites in Game 1, 9.5-point favorites in Game 2, 4-point road favorites in Game 3, and then finally underdogs in Game 4, and they actually won that game. And now they're 8-point favorites tonight. I don't get it.
Well, part of this might be, and I agree with you, Vegas, and we've said this, they were the favorites to win the whole thing.
Against the field.
Which we disagree with. So I'll give you a little bit of that on Vegas. But one of the reasons they might be favored by 8 tonight is what's Boston's problem, or one of their problems, been in the playoffs?
They stink at home.
No.
Yes.
They can't win close games.
Oh, okay.
And so they may be saying
it's
if
either
Boston
a blowout
wins,
or
it's going to have to
Okay, fair.
And let's face it, too, 8 points today, that could still be a close game. Like it could be a 10, it could get free throws or a late 3 or whatever, and it could look worse than it actually is. But before I give you my answer, I cannot let that gibberish go out on the airwaves unchallenged.
Okay.
This year, now, yes, right now, Miami's gotten the best of them in this series.
Yeah.
And if they win it, you will have to say they were better this year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But this season, there is no doubt Boston was the better team. During the regular season, they were the number 2 seed. Mm-hmm. Miami had to fight for its dear life just to make the postseason.
No, I understand that.
And last year,
they were the 1 seed.
But they played in the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken.
Who
won that?
No, and it went to a final shot of a Game 7.
But who won
Hold on,
that?
wait a second. Wait a moment. Boston beat them. We all know that Boston beat them in the series last year.
So how in the world are we saying Miami was better?
Because in Miami last year, and we don't have to relitigate last season, but they were the 1 seed. They played Boston. Their best player, Jimmy Butler, got hurt in the series and for 3 games was on 1 leg. And despite that, it came down to the final possession of Game 7. No, I get it, bro.
Okay, that's all that matters. That's all that matters. They won. So I think Boston was better last year, and thus far, Boston has been better this year. That might be proven incorrect.
Can I just ask you a question real quick on that point? So you think Miami was better than Milwaukee this year, based on the same standard? Doesn't matter who the 1 seed was. Doesn't matter that the Milwaukee's best player got hurt.
They beat them in the Milwaukee had a better regular season. Yes, Miami beat them in the playoffs.
Okay,
absolutely.
Go ahead.
Now, tonight, I'm going with the Celtics.
Oh, we're back.
Yeah. I'm going with the Celtics. And look, Gabe Vincent, and I'm not going to sit here and act like Gabe Vincent is a star.
Nobody's good.
But I'm glad you put up the numbers. Gabe Vincent, their 3rd leading scorer in this series, their best 3-point shooter in this series, and they are just running out of bodies. Now, I won't count the Heat. I have mad respect for them. They are going to play tough. I don't care who's missing. As long as he's not named Jimmy Butler, they're going to be tough to beat. But Boston, and I've been saying this, when their backs are against the wall, they come to play. Ramsey.
Ramsey.
I got Ramsey on it for me.
Thanks, Ramsey.
Look at them in elimination games. 6-1. The non-elimination playoff games, they're a 500 team. But the key is the defense. You see it. And what we saw in Game 4, They ratcheted up the defense. Miami stopped hitting all those threes, and it was a different series. And Nick, I will say this.
Yeah.
Tonight is up to Boston. They're the better team. They got the most talent. And what Miami does is beat you, especially without Tyler Hero. They beat you on heart, grit, toughness, execution, coaching. Now, Boston can't match their coaching. But if they can match their heart, their grit, just play as hard as them.
Yeah, sure.
You're going to win because you got the most talent.
So
they should win tonight.
Before I give you kind of my thoughts on why this is not a good night for Boston, I want to drill down on something here, though. I think you right now, this moment, if you believe Boston's winning tonight, you've got Boston winning the series. Brew,
I know
you
we're
do.
not there. I'm
no,
not moving
you
ahead.
know, Brew,
what did I say on 2
After
days
game
ago?
5, you might
one game
whip
at
them
a
out.
time. I said I'm one game at a time.
Yeah.
Oh, the toes?
Yeah.
Yeah, but so, Brew.
I might wear flip-flops.
Okay, Brew.
If they win tonight, I might whip the toes out.
Brew, you believe they're going to win tonight?
Yes.
You believe they will win Game 6?
We'll see.
Here's the thing.
We'll see.
You're optimistic, though. I think that's fair.
I just think they are I think they're the better team.
They are.
Can we?
They got the most talent.
Can
If
we
they come
talk
to
about
play-
what's happened to these playoffs?
Sure.
For the Miami Heat, when everyone has just given them no chance, because the Miami Heat, as underdogs, as they are tonight, as they were in their 3 previous wins in this series, have been so demonstrably different than every other underdog this postseason. If you don't care about the spread, that's fine. 8-3 record outright. The rest of the league is 18-47. Conversely, the reason people like Boston, one of the reasons, the reason they are as big of a favorite as they are, is because they're at home. How big does the sample need to get for people to recognize that is not an advantage for them? I don't know why. I don't think it's because of the pressure. They don't have a crowd that turns on them.
I don't know about that.
But it's still a great crowd.
It's a great crowd.
The crowd how many other home teams have been booed this playoffs?
The Knicks.
But I guess my point would be the home
Sixers.
the Celtics, it's the Northeast curmudgeonly fans that do it.
That's
Cold
true.
weather
That is
cities, great for sports radio, tough fans. That's kind of just how it works. But Boston fans, it was not until Game 2 of this series, when they had then seen multiple home loss after multiple home loss, and it looked like the season was going down the drain, that they turned on them. They weren't booing them in the Philly series. And it was last year they struggled at home as well. So I don't think that we can look at the Celtics being at home as if it is some big advantage. Because I don't think, and it dates back to last postseason.
Right, that's
that
fair.
It is.
But if you were a Celtic or a Celtics fan, I agree with you. But wouldn't you rather be at home?
Of course.
You'd still rather play at home.
No, of course.
Even if I get it, but I think that's because the backs aren't against the wall at home.
Nick, as our official gambling guru on the show, Jalen Brown averaging 17 points this series versus about 27 in regular season, 25 in the first 2 rounds. The line right now is at 23.5. I think he's going to have a breakout game, shooting only 12% from 3. Do you see a big game for Jalen Brown tonight?
I don't, because I think that one of the more underrated, I think there are multiple simmering stories with Jalen Brown. I think one is the cut on his hand that happened before the playoffs, and as recently as 2 games ago was, according to the sideline reporter, gushing blood. So when the cut on the hand happened, and it was like, I was picking up a broken vase, which is an odd, I don't know that I totally believe that's how he cut his hand, but that's neither here nor there. The cut obviously happened. No matter how it happened, I think it's fair to say it has not been treated properly. If you have a cut that you suffered 6 weeks prior and it still is ripping open and gushing blood, it needed some type of treatment. Now, maybe the only type of treatment he could have gotten would have knocked him out for playoff games.
You're still playing
That's why. But so that, I think, does have an actual physical effect on him. The mental impact of, I think Jalen was making All-NBA did not likely land with him the way it would land with almost anybody else, because it's like, oh my God, now I'm eligible for all this money. But he's only eligible for it from Boston, and he gave a few interviews during the year that made it seem like he didn't want to be in Boston. But now you have the added pressure and expectation of then give me this money. And then the last part of it is, for Jalen, we have talked about the trade rumors that he's dealt with in consecutive seasons. Once they lost Game 3, those trade rumors, not generated by the team in fairness, started again for this coming off season. And so he's a human being. He's the longest tenured Celtic behind Marcus Smart, but the longest tenured of their excellent players. No disrespect to Marcus. I think that he's dealing with a lot of stuff, and I don't think it's coincidental that he's having this slump right now.
Could also be his last game in Boston in a Celtics uniform.
Absolutely
so
could
ball out. Tatum has had a weird series. 28 and 10, some assists on average. He had 3 30-point games, also had a 14-point game, 3 when they really needed him. And he also has 17 turnovers, which, you're not going to believe this, Brew, leads the series. On the other side, Jimmy Butler is being awesome and drinking beers. So, Brew, who do you trust more tonight, Tatum or Jimmy Butler?
Well, look, Jimmy Butler is phenomenal. He's been the better player in this series, okay? However, Jimmy Butler last 2 games, 20% from 3, 41% overall.
Is the 20% from 3 1 of 5, or is it 2 of 10?
1 of 5.
Well, so he's taking, okay, go ahead.
He was 11% from 3 in the last year. I mean, he's not a great three-point shooter.
He's shooting, if he's taking 5 in 2 games.
1 for 5 is what?
Oh, it's 20%.
What did I say? 20%?
20%.
All right, thank you. He's 20%.
Yeah,
all right.
that's true. Go.
And Jayson Tatum, I get tired of saying it. I don't even want to utter the phrase backs against the wall. But in elimination games, in potential elimination games, Ramsey, this is what he
really
does.
working.
39, 6, and 48% shooting overall, including from 3.
Yeah, maybe if we didn't have so many elimination
I
games
feel
to draw
you.
from.
I get upset that he always puts himself in this position.
Okay.
But when he does put himself in this position, he gets busy.
Okay, but this is once again where I think you're being a touch misleading. You're being factual.
6 and 1.
You're being factual, but a touch misleading. Because Jayson Tatum, let's go through the elimination games that we had prior to this series, right? So he had an elimination game, Game 7 against Philly, where it was the highest scoring Game 7 in NBA history. That is an A-plus game. The game before was also an elimination game. And despite hitting 3 threes in the final 3 minutes, he was, let me just check real quick, 5 for 21 for 19 points. That is not good.
I got to be honest.
What?
That's a good game to me. I'm sorry.
Brew.
What he did when it counted. I don't, because it was flipped. If he had 40 going into the fourth quarter and then went 1 for 7 in the fourth, we'd be ripping him.
No, so I understand. Listen, I agree with you that he salvaged it, but the idea that he was an elimination game assassin in that spot is not accurate.
Okay.
Let's go back to the elimination game before that one, the one you always gloss
Warriors?
over. Yes,
They were better.
in the championship.
Wasn't great.
In the finals.
They were better.
He was 6 for 18 with 13 points. That 6 for 18 might sound familiar because it's also what he shot in what I would consider a de facto elimination game 4 days ago. When you're down 2-0 in a series and game 3 is, for 150 times in NBA history, an elimination game. And he was 6 for 18 with 14 points.
But it's not an elimination game.
Okay.
And the one elimination game you mentioned, the Warriors, that's the only one he's lost. All the other potential elimination games, he's won.
I understand, Brew, that you are correct, that they found themselves in a position.
You're playing fast and loose with the facts.
No, the thing is this. I am giving context and color to what is a misleading one-sided story he's been telling.
He brought in a non-elimination game as an elimination
but
game.
I said I consider down 0-2 in a series For the team down 0-2, Game 3 is a de facto elimination game. Okay. Now, you can disagree, but NBA history says it has been.
It's de facto, though.
Is it? Okay.
But now, can we now go to the Jimmy Butler side of this coin, though?
Yeah, we've got 30 seconds.
Because we don't have to, it does not have to be a referendum on Jayson Tatum to say, of course you trust playoff Jimmy more. Because Jimmy Butler has been the second best player in the league this postseason. Wow. He has had the heaviest burden to carry. All of us, he has gone up against, I would argue, and Vegas would agree, by the way, the hardest road as far as playing the Bucks and the Celtics. Those were two of the three favorites to win the whole thing.
Hard,
Denver's was
Phoenix and
the Lakers. Sure, yeah, that's fine. But I think, at least according to the pre-playoff odds, Jimmy's has been the hardest. And he has been spectacular when they've needed him. The one series he wasn't great was the Knicks series, which was the one series he didn't need to be great. And so I don't think it is an indictment on Tatum to say that you have more faith right now in Jimmy Butler. I don't.
But the only thing, he's got that burden to carry. Tatum does not have as big of a burden to carry as Jimmy. Yeah, I agree, right? Jimmy's got to do it all for them.
That's why he could have like 4 points in the first quarter.
Tatum?
Yeah, and just kind of be floating around. Oh, maybe I'll shoot a 3. That's why I think
he averages 30 in elimination.
Yeah, and he also has scored points. Made a basket in one fourth quarter of this series. One.
Okay.
Is that a fact, Brew, or is that a feeling? Is that a fact or a feeling?
We gotta go, don't we? We gotta go.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.